How old are all you guys? Are you all in your 30s?
No. Jeff and I are 25 and Nick's 24.
I just turned 24.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm quite a bit older than all you guys, so this will be fun. All right.
Well, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at because I'm the baby. So.
Yeah. Well,
you all look like you could be my dad, so this is very interesting.
Nice. All right, so welcome everyone to You Hate to See It. My name is Adam.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Nick.
And today on You Hate to See It, we have a very special guest. We have Ryan Buds. Hello, Ryan.
What's up, Adam? How you doing, Jeff? And what's up, Nick? How is everybody today? Pretty good?
Hi, is this what it's like to be acknowledged on my own podcast? Is that what it's?
Yeah.
I think we did forget to tell him.
Fuck yes.
Nick is the punching bag for if you ever get mad during the podcast, you rip into Nick. So
I'm glad you guys told me that. He looked like the one I was going to rip into.
Yeah, we've been trying to replace Nick for a year now, and for some reason he keeps finding out our recording schedule. Yeah, so Ryan, tell us a little about yourself before we get going here.
Sure. Yeah, I am what they call a full-time trivia host in the world of hosting events. I host trivia events, mostly virtually these days, but a few physical ones here and there. I also host bingo and game shows and anything fun on a microphone. Started doing stand-up out of the suburbs of Chicago, which you guys might be familiar with, around 2006 and around 2012, kind of started doing more hosting events rather than doing just strictly stand-up. And since 2017, I've run my own company called Trivia with Buds, and I've hosted about 6,000 trivia events in the last 10 years. And since the pandemic started, about 650 virtual trivia shows. So that's what I do. That's my job. If you can imagine that being someone's full-time job.
You're doing things that I wish I could do.
Hey, there you go.
So this week, my alcohol is terrible, but it's cacti. Ryan, this is seltzers left over from a party I had because I don't think I've actually bought alcohol in 6 months.
Was that party a rap party for the 1990s live action Nickelodeon series Hey Dude? Because why is it called cacti? What is that?
So it's like it's agave spiked seltzer, and it's made with cactus water.
Very good. I do want to warn you, Adam, that may not be actual liquid for human consumption. I've never heard of that. That looks like you almost produced it at home.
Well, so our buddy Garrett brought it over to my house and he didn't like it. So I got left with it. And when there's free alcohol in the fridge, you drink that before you drink your own.
I mean, you went to Western, so you know the fact that free alcohol is great alcohol. So
what's your favorite brand? Free. Second favorite is cold.
Yeah.
Did you guys say you went to Western Illinois?
All three of us did.
All three of you? Oh,
that's where we all met. Yeah, that's where we all met.
Is that how we all know each other?
Probably. So this isn't how I know you, and I'll get into how I know you in a little bit. So
Jeff and I were roommates sophomore year.
Very good. Yeah, I got my bachelor's at WIU in English in 2008, which means I host trivia in my garage for a living. That's what you do with that degree.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. That's about every degree from Western.
Do you guys want to hear my favorite? You want to hear my favorite Western joke?
Yes.
Oh, people will go, "Hey, where did you go to college?" And I always say Macomb, Illinois, and they say, "Where's Macomb?" And you tell them it's right next to my brush. It's a pretty hot bit. You can use that anytime you want. Macomb, my brush, right? The dad joke.
I mean, I'm going to use it, but I'm going to hate myself every time I do. So
I have some great memories at WIU. I saw the first movie, The Marvel Cinematic Universe, at the small 2-screen theater in Macomb, right next to
what was that
Godfather's
called?
Pizza.
Rialto.
Yeah, Rialto.
Yeah, we saw Iron Man there right before we graduated in 2008, and we all cheered at the end when he's doing the press conference and says, "I'm Iron Man," and the whole audience cheered. And it was the only time I've ever been in a movie theater audience where they clap or cheer at the end, where I felt like it was justified. Usually, it's very stupid. You're like, "What are you clapping for?" This was some dumb movie, nobody cares. And then like that movie, it was like, "Yeah, we're all in it together." It's the Marvel first movie ending. It was so cool.
So
It was
it's wild because our senior year, we all went and saw Endgame in that same theater.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Look at
that
how
was another stand up and applaud.
wow, that's wild. That's a crazy little time capsule right there.
On top of that, I got to sit next to Adam, who cried for the last half an hour.
Absolutely.
and not quietly.
To be honest, Adam was drinking cacti during the entire last half hour of that movie.
They'll tell you about their fun Monday movie nights where they got sloshed at Rialto.
We would sneak flasks into the Rialto every Monday and go see some movie.
That's
and
the best.
to bring it full circle, Jeff and I brought flasks into Adam's graduation and got shit faced while playing COD Mobile.
Yeah, they graduated
COD Mobile during the entire thing.
They graduated in May and I graduated in December. So
okay.
So they came to my graduation drunk.
That's awesome.
Very
I love it. Where did you guys live on campus at WIU?
When I was on campus, I was only on campus for a year. I was in Corbin Olson.
Same.
Yep. For sure.
I lived in all of them. all of them except for Thompson.
When I started there in 2005, the newest hall was called New Hall. They didn't even have a name for it yet. I think it's called Grody Hall now.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived there.
Yeah,
I had a little apartment for the price of a dorm. It was great.
Oh yeah. I was in the very first class living in Grody Hall, 2005. I met my wife at WIU. We had an English class together. She sent me a MySpace message and was like, "Aren't you in my class?" And then we started talking, and we've been together ever since. That was 16 years ago. So yeah, I have a lot of great history at WIU. I've done a lot of virtual trivia shows for WIU in this last year. They keep hitting me up left and right. And once it all comes together, I'm going to have my whole tuition paid back to me, I think, from virtual trivia shows. I think it's going to happen.
I fucking wish.
That's the dream. That's the dream right there.
Where you make all your money back.
That's the leatherneck dream. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. No. Then I guess we all technically lived there after the amount of times that they spent at my fucking house.
The amount of times I passed out drunk on his couch.
Yeah, I lived in a house on Adams Street with like 4 other people, and if you include these fuckers, like it added
right
up
across
to, like, 10
from
of us.
Brody, so it was perfect. Yeah,
I lived like
down the block.
I lived across from the what was the fucking old Chubby's. Chubby's moved on to the square by Chicks. I don't know if Chicks was there when you were there.
Chicks was brand new when we were there. Yeah, we love Chicks. Huge.
Everyone loves Chicks.
Yeah.
Chubby's is literally next to it now, but that house that used to be in, I live across the street from there.
There was an amazing store also in the downtown area there that only sold light bulbs and honey. Do you guys know about that store?
That's very weird.
It was just like you walked by it and you would kind of pause and you'd like back up, and it was like light bulbs and honey. I think it was the name of the store. And they had like all these different weird shaped light bulbs and jars of honey. And it was like a huge store, but that was all they had. It had to be a front for some kind of weird Macomb mob.
It was probably for the drug ring.
It had to be. It was just, it was like, who would need either of those things, especially at the same time?
What a fucking odd thing. Oh, back to the what we're drinking though. I'm drinking currently Slipknot Small Batch number 9 whiskey. Pretty great. And then I got some Bud Light sitting over here. Sad that they're Bud Lights, but yet again, what we said earlier, free beer is great beer. So
hey, if they're not Keystone Light, you're not really partying.
Yo, it's all about
Keystone Ice. Yeah, it's about Keystone Ice.
Keystone Ice, 6% alcohol for $6 for a 30-pack. Like that's
dude.
When I was at WU, you'd go to the big ass Walmart and it was $8.88 for 30 Keystone Lights.
Yeah.
And you and a friend would split it, so you'd give $4.44. And you would you would split a case. We would drink all 15 each, and then we would go out to the Pace or wherever we wanted to go.
What
and
a day.
we would cut out the front of the box and put it on our basement wall, and our whole basement wall was lined with Keystone Light cases. It was nuts.
We had a in my house, we had a quote unquote stolen room of like signs and traffic cones. And we had a whole wall that was like built-in shelving in the wall that was just filled with empty liquor bottles.
Oh, I love
and
it.
that was horrible when we moved out to have to clean out. We were like, why did we do this?
I missed college quite a bit just for the you would wake up every day and go, what kind of literally tomfoolery are we going to get into today? There was nothing else to do. It was like, oh yeah, you got to do your schoolwork, but it was was 10% of the 90% of just like, oh, we're 19, let's go smoke this thing, drink this thing, and see where the night takes us. So it was just wild.
Adam and I was it me? It was me and you, Adam, right? Where we were a little bit under the influence of a special plant, and I tried to rip a fire hydrant out of the ground.
For the record.
Yeah, Jeff and I got the munchies, and Nick was like, "Come to my dorm, and I'll buy you some stuff at the C-store." And we passed a fire hydrant, and we spent about 5 minutes kicking and trying to rip a fire hydrant out of the ground together.
As if that was going to go well for anyone in that situation.
God, I somehow just remembered the nights of playing D&D for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And then having to go to class the next morning.
So
I'm just now remembering that shit.
Every Wednesday we got together and all played D&D.
Yeah.
Ungodly long amount of time.
Yeah, it was always from like 7 p.m. to like 3 a.m. because no one had class. It was amazing.
The C-store had some amazing ranch if you like dipping pizza in ranch. So if you would go to the C-store, to this day, we talk about the ranch at the C-store.
Did you guys have Sodexo as the catering?
Who was your caterer?
I don't know the name Sodexo except from college, so it had to be the same thing.
That would
well,
make
they
sense.
also do prison food, so
yeah, and the prison food's better than what they give the college.
Yeah.
So, like literally,
yes.
like they did a whole thing on that. It was weird.
Oh man, I had some great memories at WIU. I got to open, so I started doing stand up in 2006, and I entered a contest on the Loop 97.9 Chicago, which no longer exists. But
I remember that. I listened to the fuck out of the Loop in high school.
The Loop was great. They played a lot of classic rock, and the main DJ in the morning, his name was Johnny B. Jonathan Brandmeier.
Love Johnny B.
Oh, Johnny B. He was on some sports channel in Chicago after the Loop, and I can't remember what that was, but
he
it
did
only
his
lasted
own
like a
TV
year.
show too. He did his TV show for like
JBTV.
He does a
Yep.
podcast now, I think.
Yeah, he just had one of those great voices. He was jokey without being like super crass, but he was like awesome. And so he hosted this contest, and it said open. It was like a open for Dennis Miller contest. And so this was 2006, the beginning of 2006. So YouTube was brand new. I think it came out in 2005. Nobody uploaded audio or video clips to the internet yet like they do now, anywhere close to that. So this contest called for you to do that. And I think that I won the contest sheerly by being able to upload like an audio clip, like somewhat.
You're the only one able to figure out the internet.
It was me, a friend of mine named Ken Gar, who's an amazing comedian from California, really funny dude. Ken Gar from the South Side. I think he grew up in Oak Lawn area, family of firefighters, all that kind of stuff. But it was basically me and him uploaded clips. And then the other two clips were like, it was like a woman talking about being a chocoholic. She's like, I'm addicted to chocolate, but there were like no jokes. It was just like her on stage somewhere talking about loving chocolate. And it was just not funny.
I feel like she would have been great on TikTok now if she did that.
Oh, she's probably killing it right now. Yeah. And then the fourth guy was just an old man, like whispering into a microphone at his house. So it wasn't like a recorded clip, like at a live show. It was just like, you know what I don't like about short people? And it was just like so weird. And it just had no laughs or anything. So I think I literally won that contest because I had like maybe the best quality clip. And it was just something I recorded probably around the south suburbs at, I used to do a lot of shows at this place called the Ashbury Coffee House in Willow Springs, Illinois. And I probably recorded a hot show there and had like a minute that was kind of funny. And I uploaded it and I won the contest. And I got to open for Dennis Miller, who was, he's very conservative now, but at that time he was kind of like venturing into that area. So a lot of people still liked him quite a bit. And he was from SNL and all that stuff. And I got to open for him at the Genesee Theater in Waukegan in 2006 for about 2,000 people. And I had been doing stand-up for like 3 months at WIU. And I was just doing open mics and kind of telling jokes to friends. I wasn't even really doing real shows, but I won that contest and I got to go do that. And that was one of my first big shows, and it went really well. They gave my family front row seats to watch the whole show, and that was cool seeing them up front. And I got to open up for Dennis Miller and then introduce him, and he came out and had a killer show. And it was just a really cool night, but that all stemmed from Jonathan Brandmeier on the loop calling me at WIU. I woke up at my house on 418 Johnson Street, and he was like, "Ryan, you won the contest." And I was live on the radio. It was nuts. And I was 19 or 20 maybe. But very cool memories there. And that kind of like, I don't want to say jump started, that's not the right word, but it started my my comedy career in 2006.
So yeah, so I actually was going to talk a little bit about your stand-up. So that's actually how I met you. So whether you remember this or not, New Year's Eve in 2012, so about 10 years ago, I saw you at the Comedy Shrine in Naperville.
Okay.
I sat in the front row. My dad was like, "I don't want to sit in the front, like right up next to the stage." I was like, "Come on, Dad, like let's do it. Like let's have the comedian make fun of us." And you spent so much time making fun of my dad and I, and it was fucking amazing. I loved it so much.
As someone who likes Adam's dad, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, also my dad hasn't like bought new nicer clothes since like the 90s. So he was wearing like a really odd, like tannish, like gross sweater, and went there, and like you just made fun of him and I the whole night. And I bought your digital album. So I was like 15 at the time. I don't remember what the name of it. I couldn't find it online either of like what the name of it was.
Sure. Yeah.
But I bought your digital album, and then I bought your t-shirt, which I'm actually wearing right now. The knock knock, who's there?
Wow.
Fuck you.
Oh, that's great.
That video is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So I'm also going to share my screen right now and pull up this video.
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen to come out of Western.
So this happened at Western in college.
Oh God, I love this.
This is wild because you know what's weird about that is I remember the show because I got into a huge fight with my brother.
Oh fuck, I do know what this is.
All right, so this is a bunch of drunk people at what's the name of this bar, Jeff?
The Ritz, right?
The Forum.
That's the Forum.
The
Forum.
Forum.
Yes,
yeah, Ritz is the one across the street.
The Forum, And two dogs is upstairs.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I love that.
That got me some track. Like I became semi-famous for like a week and a half. Because that was also New Year's Eve.
Well, you didn't show the very end of it. I don't know if it was on there, but at the very end, she like turns around after he pulls up the "fuck you," and she just like is open mouth, like, "What the fuck just happened to me?"
Wow.
And yeah, I loved that shirt, so I just wore it to get drunk and just to see what people would do. And this chick literally just walked up to me and knocked on my chest, and I was just like, "Yeah, fuck you."
I never thought about the idea of someone walking up and knocking on your chest. Has that happened a lot?
Neither did I. No, that's the only time it's ever happened. The fact
that Adam was drunk
camera.
and still somehow knew that quickly to pull the shirt up is amazing to me.
Sure.
Yeah, like that was that was like I didn't catch that video. Like so that was her friends. They apparently had seen me, had talked about it, and just came up to me, and they were filming, and that got posted. I don't know if you know Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
But Western, while we were there, had an Instagram for like a WIU Barstool.
Yeah.
And so these two girls recorded this, sent it to Barstool. I downloaded it, uploaded it on my thing, and I messaged them. It was like, "Yo, like that's me in the video." So they tagged me in it, and like it was
that's
this whole
great
big thing.
That's wild.
Yeah, that they just randomly walked up to me, knocked on my chest, and for some reason I figured it out very quickly.
I love that story. See, that's something I never would have known unless I did this podcast today. So thanks for sharing that. I remember doing those shows on New Year's. My sister lived like, I don't know, a mile from the mall in Aurora where the Comedy Shrine was. And I stayed at her house overnight, and I got into like a wild drunken fight with her and her fiance at the time. And it was like, that's what I remember about that weekend. I don't remember the shows at all, but it sounds like everything you said is accurate.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like some shit I
and
do.
that, yeah.
I was
And
gonna
that
say that
shirt-
sounds like all of our New Year's.
I will tell you that shirt was, so yeah, back then, 10 years ago, I was attempting to do comedy full time as like my full-time income. And I was just married and we had an apartment, my wife and I, and our dogs and stuff. And, every instinct in me told me I had to have some kind of thing that sold after the show, whether the show went well or not on the road or locally in Chicago. Like if I was not getting paid for the show, I could still try and sell these shirts. So, somebody, I forget which comedian had a shirt that flipped and it said something else. And I don't remember what it was, but I remember going, ooh, that's a good gimmick. I got to have a shirt that flips. And that's the thing. People are like, one, it'll be funny. And two, when you flip it, it makes it funnier. And I'll sell these shirts for $20 and I'll charge, or I'll pay $8 per shirt or whatever it was. And there were certain weekends where I would go on the road, like to Wisconsin, some comedy club up there, like Comedy Club on State or something in Madison. And I would sell like $2,000 worth of t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I would be making like $400 for the comedy shows. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. So if you as a comedian got a shirt on this weird road circuit where you're doing all these one-nighters and you're just going to drunk town after drunk town and it played enough, it didn't even matter if you were funny, if you could sell the shirt well, drunk people would buy it. And there were certain nights where I'd sell 20, 30, 40, 50 shirts. And it was like so cool. Because it was just like backup plan where you're like, okay, I'll make $400 as a feature act doing 4 shows at some dive bar in Wisconsin, but I'll make $800 from t-shirts. So that weekend I'll make $1,200. And that was like how you stayed afloat. And I knew a lot of other comics that were doing the same kind of things. And it was very rewarding, like to see at the end of the weekend, like, oh my God, I got to do the thing I really like to do, which is tell jokes, and selling these dumb shirts helped me do that more. It was fun.
Yeah, I just remember you saying like, yeah, like I'm a comedian and people always ask me to tell them a joke. So I wear this shirt to get them to stop asking me for jokes because I'm just prepped for anything.
That was the sale when they're like, hey, tell me a joke. And then you flip the shirt and they're like, whoa. And yeah, when you flipped it on the audience, like at the last 5 minutes of the set, they would always eat it up. So that was cool. But yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm glad you still have that.
Yeah, like our very first message to each other on Facebook is me like, I mean, I'm 15 years old and I idolize anyone who like breathes and is cooler than me. So
you would have loved.
So I like
you would have
elite
loved
group.
me at 15.
Yeah,
I sent you like
God.
some message on Facebook and I remember you posted it, like you screenshot it and posted it on your Facebook, and I was like, this is what it means to be famous, like this is it. I've made it. And like
That's
as
awesome.
some 15-year-old, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like this comedian that I liked posted my message to him.
Oh, that's amazing. That is awesome. Thanks for sharing
So
that.
I have a question for you. I mean, everyone.
It's 11 inches.
Okay.
What?
Perfect. All right,
All
continue
right,
on,
next
everyone.
question.
So as vice president of the Small Dick Gang, you are not allowed. I'm sorry, you're not allowed in our club.
Jeff, what's your
You're
real
like
question?
a solid 8 inches above being able to even be considered for the Small Dick Gang. No. What's your favorite? Or I guess maybe not favorite, but what's the number one memory of being heckled? Because I always find hecklers hilarious because those guys always get fucking roasted out of nowhere.
The thing that jumps, I was just thinking about this the other day. I used to have a joke about the name Tyler just being a douchey name. Like if you have a kid named Tyler, you're raising a douchebag, something
Very
like
Chad-like.
that.
These days it's Connor. These days it's Connor.
Yeah, Connor's probably the new one. So back when I made this joke, it was Tyler, and this woman stood up in the crowd and yelled at me, "Hey, my son's name is Tyler." And I said, "Whoa." I go, "Well, is he a douchebag? Because you're kind of douchey," or something like that. And it got big laughs because she looked like an idiot. And she said, I said, "Well, how does he spell his name?" And she said, Tylor. And that became like a whole new section of jokes where it was like, if you spell it with an O, you're the ultimate douchebag, something like that. But I was like, someone named their kid Tylor. like LOR. And I was like obsessed with that. I thought that was so funny. And it was from a woman yelling about her son's name, and her son's name was worse than the joke I was making. You know what I mean?
think the real question off of that story though is was she a Karen?
Yes, she was definitely a
Short
Karen
bob cut?
before her time.
Short bob
This was
cut?
like an 09 Karen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she and then the son's name was Tyler, and I had some clip on YouTube about it years
It
ago.
sounds like how a fucking Karen would fucking spell it. Like,
Yeah. She was awful.
I got to make it special.
Yeah, she was awful, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is great." So I don't have a ton of stories where like a heckler was like so shitty that I was so thrown out I didn't know what to do. Like, you know, I was always able to at least kind of power through it. And my favorite thing about doing stand-up was crowd work. So joking around with people and making fun of the comedian that went on before me, or the thing that happened in the room at the moment that I went on stage or whatever. Those were the things that it was like the set was the backup plan, and the crowd work was what kind of, you know, fueled me to do the set in the first place. So, there's a million moments where there's probably moments where I was defeated, but I don't really remember them where it was like I was crushed by a heckler, or I couldn't move on with the rest of my set because of a heckler. And a lot of people do ask that question of comedians, like, what's your craziest heckler story?
It happens to all of them. Like, it happens all the time. You just don't see them on the specials like that are on Netflix and shit. Like, they're not there.
Unless you're Steve Hofstetter. Steve Hofstetter
embraces it. Yeah, that's true. He came to WIU when I was there, and he was very friendly, and I opened for him a lot here and there in Los Angeles when I lived there, and told him about, I'm like, do you remember this specific show? And he seemed to remember. It's wild. I opened for a lot of comedians at WIU. I opened for Christian Finnegan, who was the one white guy in the Mad Real World sketch on Chappelle's show, where it's all black guys and one white guy. If you remember that sketch.
Yeah.
And they all like, I think they run a train on his girlfriend or something. Anyway, Christian Finnegan, very funny comedian. And he came to WIU around that time. So that was probably 05, 06. And I opened for him in front of like 300 people. And that went really well. And he was very friendly. So every time a comedian would come, I was friends with the guy who booked all the comedians. So I'd be like, can I open for them? And he'd be like, sometimes he'd be like, yeah, they're cool with it. Sometimes I would have to message like the management of the comedian at Western and say, hey, can I open for them? Can I do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, anything? And so I got to open for quite a few comedians. Bill Burr came to our college, which was great. I think in 06, 07.
Oh, wow. You're lucky. Jesus.
I didn't open for him, but that was awesome. We had Jim Gaffigan came, did a huge show at like the rec center, wherever, like the basketball arena or whatever it was. But what was really cool was basically I would email every comedian that came, and they would either say yes or no. So I got to open for all these comedians. And if they didn't, if they already had an opener, they would tell me. They would say, you know, like Jim Gaffigan wrote back, hey, Ryan, sorry. So he was like, you know, I have an opener I use on all my shows. Thanks so much for reaching out. And I'm like, holy shit, Jim Gaffigan wrote me back. You know, like it was still cool if you got the denial. But I got to open. The biggest comedian I opened for was Zach Galifianakis in April of 2007. So we just passed the whatever year anniversary. 11 years, 15. I don't know what that was, but I got to open for Zach in front of 2,000 people, sold out show, this huge hall. I think it might've been Western Hall. It was crazy. And I got
Western Hall is the biggest place that can hold the most people, other than obviously the football stadium. But
the last, I'd say, big comedian that Western had was my freshman year, and it was Sinbad. After that was it, because they just couldn't afford anyone.
Jesse McCartney and like Waffle.
That's all I remember.
Waka Flock. I worked security for that show. I worked security for that show.
Zach Galifianakis in 07 was the biggest show that year for comedians, and he got paid $14,000. I remember. I knew the number. So he got paid $14,000. He did about 35 minutes, and I did like 20 minutes before him, and everybody loved it. He was hilarious. He was the nicest guy. He went out and partied at the Pace afterwards. He bought a keg for his hotel room, which was like above the Union, and had kids partying back at his hotel room. It was like everything you'd want that to be. And it was like the year before The Hangover came out. So he was famous. People knew who he was, but he wasn't Hangover famous yet.
Actor, comedian.
Yeah. So that was 07. I think Hangover came out in 08 or 09. And then he blew up, and he's been famous ever since. But even I remember writing him and going, Zach, thanks for letting me open for you. That was the best. And he's like, I think he said, hey, Ryan, you're a natural. thanks for opening for me. Keep at it. And I was like, oh my, and it said ZG. And I was like, oh my God, he wrote me back. Like, he was just a genuinely awesome dude. And I remember he was really worried about the amount of time he had to do. He's like, I'm supposed to do an hour. And he goes, I don't think I'm going to do a full hour. And I'm like, you're going to be great. Cause I'm just like, I don't know what you're going to do. And he did a good 40, 45 minutes. And it was like, you didn't even want him to do anymore. It was so funny and people were dying. He closed out the set, like dressed as little orphan Annie. Like he had like a red dress, like around his kneecaps, and he threw glitter up. I don't even remember what it was, but it was crazy. I remember he had a joke that said, there's a show called That's So Raven. He goes, more like Fat So Raven. Because Raven Simone was kind of heavy at the time. And it was like, it was just like little, like those like kind of like with just one liner type, like almost like Twitter. It was like Twitter before Twitter came out, like a really killer Twitter joke, but that's his style. And he was so funny. And that was one of my favorite memories of college, because not only did I get to open for him, I got to perform in front of 2,000 people way before I ever did that again. I did it for Dennis Miller. I did it for Zach Galifianakis, and I've probably done it like 3 other times since then, where there were that many people in a room like focused on me. So I love that part of college. I love that I was at WIU when that happened. It was just such a cool, kind of magical time, you know?
So I work in the film industry. I'm just up and coming into it. You know, I worked one job and then was offered a 3-month contract, and then COVID hit and that contract was terminated.
Yeah.
And then, so it's been rough going like further into the film industry since films started shooting again. But I saw that you'd been in stuff, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about a few of your projects.
Yeah, sure.
So the one I saw right after I saw you do stand-up was the Between Gigs web series.
Yeah. That, oh man, that was fun. That was right before I moved to LA. So that was like 11 and 12. We moved in October 2012 to California. So my friend Dale Zawada, who was a Southside Chicago comedian, he said, hey, we got to make some kind of show. He was really obsessed with It's Always Sunny, and It's Always Sunny got sold because these guys had a camcorder, like literally like a JVC camcorder. And they just taped like a little sketch at home about what that show might be like. And they sold that to FX, and now it's been on for 18 seasons. So like that was his mentality, was like, we got to make like something like that. So we were both comedians, and we came up with this dumb idea to just like, what do we do when we're not doing stand-up shows? It's all the mundane stuff of living in an apartment in your mid-20s and whatever. So we filmed a lot of those. I think we filmed, I don't know, maybe 50 episodes, 60 episodes, but we would put it out every week or twice a week. And it was fun. It was just like a little thing. You had to edit a few pieces together, and it was a good time. We had a lot of comedians like guest star on it from the South Side and stuff. And we loved doing it, but I don't know if those are still out there or not, but they were a lot of fun to make. And I came across a hard drive with some of them on them recently, and I watched them like, oh my God, these are so weird. But
yeah, they're still up on YouTube, because in research for this, I was like, oh, I know he did this thing that I watched, and I just remember.
Sure.
And I remember like when the last episode came, I was like, what the fuck? I'm so upset. Like, I loved it. And I went into earlier, I went and found it, and I just forwarded it to these guys to see if they could watch a couple episodes beforehand or anything. But yeah, I loved that.
Oh, thanks, man.
So you started doing like background roles, I see. So did you meet anyone interesting on How I Met Your Mother or Rules of Engagement?
Yeah. So I moved to LA in October 2012, and I started doing stand-up as much as I could. And I started doing trivia nights actually as like a side hustle. And then I would do a lot of extra work. So you sign up, everybody that moves to LA that wants to be in anything acting usually signs up for Central Casting. That's like this company. They book all the background workers for all these, you know, extra roles on TV shows and movies and things. So you would go, you had to go to this cattle call kind of a thing and put in all your information. They take some pictures of you, and then you become part of a database. And then whenever they need extras, they would just kind of like, you had to call this number. I don't know if it's this way anymore, but you had to call like a hotline, and it would be like, hey, we're looking for extras for Rules of Engagement. We need people that are, you know, multi-cultured, and we need like 20s to 30s to be hanging out in a club or whatever. And so if you like match that, you would like call and enter your code or something. And then they would call you the next day and say, you got it. So there were a lot of times where I did that and I'm like, oh man, I hope I get this because I love this show, and I wouldn't get it. But I got to be on How I Met Your Mother because they called me and they said, hey, it says in your profile that you can roller skate. Can you roller skate? And I said, yes. And then they said, now you're not just saying that, right? Because a lot of people will lie to get on these TV shows when they first moved to LA. So you can actually roller skate, right? And I said, yeah, I have a pair of skates. I'm looking at it right now. And I hung up the phone and I had no idea how to roller skate. There was like not even, I've never touched a roller skate
As
in my
you
life.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, oh, okay. I got 3 days. It was like Tuesday and this thing was filming on Friday. And so I went to this place called the Moonlight Rollerway. I think it's called, in Glendale, California. I lived in Burbank at the time. And I rented a pair of skates from a roller rink, and they put outdoor wheels on them so I could practice outside. And I think it was $25 or something. And I rented these skates, and I lived in an apartment complex with a pool. So I just practiced by roller skating around the pool for like 3 days. And eventually I didn't fall. And I'm like, okay, I got this. It's like rollerblading, but it's different. And I went to the set, and it was How I Met Your Mother. And it was like, the joke was Ted is dating a girl who's a hipster, and she's a lot younger than him. And she hangs out with all these other hipsters, and they're so hip, they travel everywhere by roller skates. They don't walk or, take a bus or anything. So it's 1 second of screen time where it's like, she's like, hey, me and my friends are going to go over here. Are you going to join us? And he's like, I don't know, I'm kind of old or whatever. And we all skate away with her. That was it. That was the whole scene. But when I got to the set, they shaved my beard. I had a beard. I've had a beard like this, kind of like a light beard for my adult life.
Same.
And they shaved it all off. And yeah, Jeffrey's been growing that since birth. They put a big curly mustache on me, like I was like, from the 30s or something. And so I had this big curly mustache. I had like a poncho or something weird. I was just supposed to look like a hipster. And they gave me extra money because they shaved my face, which I learned, like, there were all these little bumps you could get as an extra. So it's like, if you just appear, you got $64 for 8 hours, which is $8 an hour. With taxes taken out, you made like $50. But then if you got your face shaved, that was an extra $50 bump. And if there was smoke like on screen that could cause cancer, it was like, here's another $25 or whatever, whatever the smoke thing was. Yeah. It was like, here's your extra $10, So anyway, there were all these little perks you can get. So by the end of the day, you could maybe make $150 or whatever it was. And so that was my biggest thing at the time, because I had been an extra on all these things, but I had not had these perks before. So I got this curly mustache, I got this poncho, I got roller skates on. I'm terrified because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to fall down. I've never done this before. And I lied to get this role. So when we got there were 3 other people who were supposed to be hipsters on skates. They were all way worse skaters than I was, and they couldn't skate for the life of them. So they kept all falling down, and they're like, Ryan, can you show these 3 how to skate? Can you help them out? And I'm like, of course, I'm a pro, but I had just learned 3 days before. So it was like the idea of a little white lie working out to your advantage. And then like the white lie worked into the fact that I'm like the coach of all the skaters on this extra scene. And nobody fell when we actually filmed it. We had to skate like from here to where my camera is on my computer right now. It was nothing. But if you watch the episode, it's called Ring Up. And I play Carly's friend on skates. And Carly ends up being Barney's little sister, if you know the show How I Met Your Mother. So that's Neil Patrick Harris's little sister. Yeah. She's dating Ted. It blows up into a thing. And that episode came out the Monday or Thursday or whenever that show came out after the Super Bowl that year. So they advertised that episode during the Super Bowl. And the advertisement was like, Ted's dating a hipster. And it cut to me as a hipster. And that was the whole commercial. It was like, so all my friends and family are like, I just saw you in a Super Bowl commercial. And I'm like, what? And I had no idea. It was just this really random circumstance from lying about being able to roller skate. But it was very cool. I took a picture when we had to go take the after everything was done, everything worked out fine. Went back to the makeup trailer, and they had to take this, it's called spirit gum, when they put a mustache on your face, and they had to peel that off and scrape some stuff off. And Ted came in to get his makeup off, and it was just me and him and the 2 makeup ladies. And after we were done, I said, do you mind if I take a picture with you? And he's like, no problem. So I have a great picture of me and Ted Mosby from that show. And I feel bad that I can't even think of his real name right now. But
Josh Radnor.
That's it. Josh Radnor.
That's my favorite, all-time favorite TV show.
It's a really good show, and we just finished Scrubs. My family and I rewatching it. My wife and I watched that. That was like our show when we met in 2005. We loved Scrubs, and we just watched it for the second time. And I said, now we got to watch How I Met Your Mother, which we also watched all the way through. Up until I was on it. And then I don't think we watched the last season. So we got to watch How I Met Your Mother all over again. That's a good show.
So when you watched Scrubs, did you include the final season or did you stop when the real ending is?
The original time we watched it, we did. And we're like, this is terrible. And then we didn't watch it this last time. So it's funny.
That's the right move.
Yeah.
Genuine question.
Yeah. Nick,
Yes.
12 inches. All right,
12 inches. All right. Wow. Jesus Christ.
Wild.
Grows that much?
I have 2 beers.
No, mine just stops working after taking a sip of my
Jeff,
first
does yours
beer.
work that way too?
So I'm at like a solid, like maybe if I'm lucky, like 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah. So I remember watching Scrubs. I want to say like 2-3 years ago. I also never finished the last season because I can't finish a TV show to save my life.
Yeah.
Just because I'm horrible at it. Should I not watch that last season?
It's terrible.
Just okay. So I made the right choice. All right.
The final scene you should ever watch is, I don't remember even the character's name, but the main doctor walking through the hallway and seeing all of the cast from all of the seasons. And then when he leaves the building, that's it. Don't fucking watch the ninth season. Yeah. It's awful.
So I just watched it. JD walks down the hallway. They have all the guest stars from all the whole 8 seasons at that point, and they're all lining the hallways. It's kind of spooky because some of the characters have died and things, but like the actors are still alive. So it's very bizarre. And he sees them all, and they all kind of like nod to him. It's a really cool way of closing out a show because it feels like you are ending a life or something. It's weird. And then he walks out to the front of the hospital, and there's a sheet hanging that says like, good luck, JD, because he's leaving the hospital. And a projector starts playing with all these future moments that are going to happen between him and all the other characters, where they have him and the girl that he's with, Elliot, have another kid, and they're together. And it's really cool. And the song that plays during that is called Book of Love by Peter Gabriel. And that song is actually the wedding song my wife and I used because we liked that show so much. So our wedding song was the Book of Love by Peter Gabriel, which was used on Scrubs. And it's a great song that just talks about your life in an interesting, unique way.
The amount of the Frey songs I learned from that goddamn show is insane.
It's such a good show. God, it's so good.
It is a great show.
It's good. There's some times, I would say there's 10 I would say like must watch episodes of Scrubs that are better than most television sitcom history. They're just so good. And then there's a lot of just okay episodes. And then there's a lot of just worthwhile, like you should watch these anyway episodes. But yeah, that first 8 seasons of Scrubs are fantastic.
They do a great job of balancing comedy with like real life moments.
And they would do slapstick, jokey, ridiculous cutaway Family Guy type humor. And then at the end of the episode, all the patients have died. And you're like, oh my God, like I didn't see that coming. Like 3 patients die on one episode. And it's like this.
The janitor is the best character.
And there's just a lot to love about that show. And there's a great podcast called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, which I listened to on the drive. I just moved from California to Tennessee. And most of the drive out here, I listened to like the first 10 episodes of that show. And it's great to hear all these extra insights, especially after you just watched the whole series,
Yeah, I want to start watching or listening to that podcast, but I like same with the Office one with Jenna Fisher. I want to watch the episode first because I haven't seen these shows in so long.
Sure.
I want to get that recap.
That is a great podcast as well. I have a friend who's watched The Office, I think 16 times, like the entire series.
I don't
the American
get that.
Office.
That's my girlfriend.
My girlfriend's done that. I don't.
He told me like now he's at the point when he watches it, he picks a character and only watches them in the scenes. So like he'll go Kevin, and like the whole episode, he doesn't really pay attention to anything except Kevin's scenes, but he still watches the entire episode. And I'm like, what? Like that?
Why?
I don't. There's not enough life to do that. You know what I mean?
I can understand why, because like when they're just sitting there, they're all just fucking around doing their own shit too, and they all do weird, crazy things.
Yeah,
so
he's like, you pick up on a lot
but...
of stuff, and I'm like, I think you just need to watch a new show.
Yeah. So this next one I want to talk about is probably the most known role of yours, and it's uncredited, of Sharknado.
Yeah, sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about your scene? So personally, I watched the first like 78 seconds of that movie and turned it off.
Yeah, that's about right.
So I don't think these.
Yeah, that's up.
That's actually further than most people get.
For the thing that really turned me off is Tara Reid looking like a cocaine addict, because she looks like just shit. So
Isn't that just Tara Reid?
Well, after American Pie, yeah.
All right.
So can you tell us a little bit about your scene? Because these two have probably never even seen it. I think I watched it just to see you. Like, well, I think I got to your scene, watched slightly after it, was like, I'm done. Like,
So I moved to LA in October 2012, and on my birthday, November 7th, 2012, I won a contest at a comedy club, and I got $500, which was very needed at that time because I just moved there. I got a bowl of French fries from the kitchen at the comedy club, and I got a walk-on role in a Sci-Fi Channel original movie, which happened to be Sharknado. So this comedy club was called Flappers in Burbank, California. I think it's still open, but maybe not. I'm not sure right now. But they used to have this weird relationship with the studio across the street, which was called Asylum. Asylum had all these terrible movies on Sci-Fi Channel. So like instead of Transformers, they would air Transmorphers, and it was like a low budget Transformers. Or instead of Bumblebee, they had Hornet, and it was like a Hornet. It was terrible. Like stuff like that. They would just kind of like make $1 million or $500,000 or $200,000 version of some hit movie and hope that people would accidentally buy it or rent it, to make money. And it was interesting. So they would offer up they had this contest at this comedy club where it was like, you got to walk on role in a Sci-Fi Channel original movie with Asylum. So up until then, all these movies were terrible and nobody really talked about them other than like, oh, I was on this thing on Sci-Fi Channel. So when I won, it happened to be this kismet moment of, hey, you get to be in this shark movie. And nobody knew what Sharknado was. It was just like a shark movie. So when I got to the set, I said, hey, I'm supposed to be in this movie. And they're like, yeah, you're going to be beach victim number 1. We're going to make it look like a shark bit off your leg. And I was like, okay. So I said, is that going to be like makeup and prosthetics or special effects and CGI? And they were like, no, you're going to dig a hole in the beach and put your leg in it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a really bad movie. So I had to dig my own hole, put my leg in the sand, and wiggle my thigh like it was missing off of my body.
See, at least the jobs I get right now, because I'm doing production assistant stuff, at least I would be the one digging your hole for you. Like that's
yes. So I had to dig my own hole. They pulled some blood around my stump, which was my kneecap. And they said, scream. And I was like, and the movie came out. I'm in the first 15 minutes. They cut to me. I'm on a beach and there's this beach attack. And they cut to a guy with his arm mangled coming out of the water who was from Fangoria magazine. I forget his name, but he had come to the set that day basically to write about the movie, and they made him like a victim. So they did his scene. Then they cut to me and I go, for like literally 1 second. That was it. That was the whole thing. And the screenshot of me in the movie became the publicity photo they used to promote the movie when it blew up in the summer of 2013. So this was like January 2013, beginning of the year. I won the contest in November. I got to go do it in January. The movie comes out in the summer and it blows up and everyone's talking about how ridiculous and crazy it is. And my face is like everywhere. I was on the cover of like the LA Times. It said movies of the weekend, World War Z and Sharknado. And it was my face and Brad Pitt's face, like side by side. It was like Sharknado, World War Z. So my mom thinks I'm very successful, but it was just this weird happenstance of like, I won this contest. I got to be in a movie that happened to be the movie they were filming at that time that ended up being this ridiculous movie they made 6 sequels to. Everybody every year would be like, are you in the new one? And I'm like, yeah, look for me. But I'm only in the first one for like 1 second. But it was this weird thing. And I always have them by my desk. That's the picture of me in Sharknado with my leg covered up or in the sand. Look I had to dig my own hole.
You could see the knee. You could see the knee.
You can see the knee. That's my leg. It's gone.
I love the idea of your mom thinking you're super successful for this movie.
Yeah, she's like,
and you got paid basically to do a comedy club thing and a bowl of French fries.
I got French fries. I got zero. People always go like, oh man, like my IMDb picture is that picture. And I didn't pick that. It just picks it for you.
Did you have to pay taxes on the French fries?
No, I did not have to pay taxes.
No?
French fries.
All right.
That's
But
a win.
yeah, I got no real money to be in Sharknado, but I milk it for all it's worth all these years later because it's just a weird story. And as a trivia host, it's like a fun thing to tie into the show to be like, oh, by the way, corporate company that's paying me to do a trivia show, I was in this movie, and they're like, what? You know, and then you just tell that story and it all goes well.
I think I remember seeing at some point a YouTube video. Did you get like a tooth? Like a shark tooth, or did you at least see a shark tooth or something?
So this weird occurrence it led to a lot of other things. I was on a lot of morning shows, radio shows, like just like people were like, we got the beach victim #1 from Sharknado's on the show, you know, like just like a dumb thing to do. And I got to be on a show called Beverly Hills Pawn, which is a pawn show, like one of those reality shows that are not real at all. Just so everybody knows, if you ever watch any pawn show, they're not really buying or selling anything.
Are you telling me Chum Lee is not an anime expert? Are you actually trying to sell that bullshit on this podcast?
This well-renowned
Are you serious
podcast.
right now?
I don't want to ruin
really
this for
trying
you, Nick,
to sell that here?
I don't want to ruin this for you, Nick, but Chum Lee is actually a hologram. He's not even a real person. But no, so yeah, I got to be on Beverly Hills Pawn. I went to the set and I'm like, they're like, hey, you're going to try and sell a styrofoam shark fin from Sharknado that's signed by the director and Ian Ziering and Tara Reid. And you're going to be trying to buy this crib for your daughter. And it's so expensive, you have to sell this piece of memorabilia that you got from being in the movie. So the memorabilia was just from the asylum. I told them like, hey, they want me to do this show. And they're like, here, you can borrow this shark fin that's signed by the director and these people. So I brought it to the set. That was like my story. So all these shows that you have like some kind of story, you go, you record this thing. They use a lot of improv actors to kind of improvise like the back and forth. And so they go, okay, we're at Beverly Hills Pawn. It's a fancy like Rodeo Drive type scenario. And they're like, okay, how much do you want for the styrofoam shark fin signed by Tara Reid? And I'm like, $20,000. So they're like, we're not going to pay you $20,000. We'll pay you, $1,000 or something like that. And I said, no deal. So like, I don't end up selling the shark fin on the show, but at the end, the resolution is like, hey, my daughter won't get the crib that she wants, but at least I could hang something cool above the crib we can afford. And that's the solution of the episode. And so it's literally ridiculous. That's going to be harder to find online because like, I don't even know.
I saw it on YouTube. Yeah. Like I saw it.
I don't know
somewhere.
even what network that aired on, like Bravo, maybe. I don't know what Beverly Hills Pawn was on, but it was an
that
interesting
sounds like
experience.
a very Bravo show.
Yeah. It was wild, but yeah, all those shows. What's funny is I will tell my mom like, hey, all those ghost hunter shows and pawn shows, they're all fake, right? And she goes, oh no, those are real. And I'm like, Mom, I was on a pawn show. And she goes, the one you did was just the fake one. Like she doesn't believe that the rest of the show was fabricated.
Definitely, first off, paranormal investigators, 100% real. Don't come at me with that. Okay. God.
All right, Nick.
So I saw your IMDb, your most recent acting credits were both in 2018 for Hornet and Jurassic Galaxy. I want to know more about Jurassic Galaxy, honestly, but
Sure.
what can you tell me about these movies that are not ripoffs at all of Bumblebee and Jurassic World?
Yes. So in Hornet, I am just a newscaster's voice. So I'm not even on screen. I had some friends who made that movie that I met on Sharknado, and they were like, can you just send us a voiceover of you reporting like some news, some news bits. So my voice is in that movie, but I'm not in it. I've never actually seen it. I don't even really know if my voice is in it, but that's what I was credited for and got a little bit of money for.
Wait, you've never seen this movie that your voice may or may not be in?
I haven't seen most of I've never seen any of the Sharknado movies except the first one. There's 6 of them. I'm only in the first one, but yeah, there's a lot of movies on my IMDb that I've never actually watched. Jurassic Galaxy, I watched, I think maybe the first half, and then I was like, okay, that's enough. But it looks like it was shot on a flip phone in the desert of California, and I was supposed to be a guy named I don't remember, Corrigan. I think my name was Corrigan. And I was supposed to be a guy that won a trivia contest on an intergalactic spaceship. And the prize was a trip around the galaxy. And I go on this spaceship with these other people, and the ship crash lands on a planet that happens to have dinosaurs on it called Jurassic Planet. So like my legs are broken. And again, my legs are destroyed like in Sharknado. And
You're
my legs are,
typecast. You know, it's hard for people to get
I look
over
like
that.
a guy
really,
that
honestly.
should be in a wheelchair, I think. I have one of those faces. They're like, he should be sitting down.
Why is he walking? This doesn't make
What
sense.
is he walking around for? So we crash land, and I have this monologue where I talk to this guy about how I won this contest. I'm a English professor. It was very like close to home with me. And then when the movie came out, they cut all of that. And I'm basically just a corpse. Like we crash land, they drag my body, they prop it up against this ship. And then like we fall asleep. And then like a velociraptor creeps around the corner in like PlayStation 1 animation style. And it's just like growls at me and attacks my throat and rips my throat out. And that's my whole scene in the movie. I have no
But
line.
you're the hero in the director's cut, right?
I'm the hero in the director's cut. But if you went,
All right.
when the movie came out in 2000, whatever that was, 18, it was at Redbox. And if you went to Redbox, you could rent Jurassic Galaxy, and it said starring Ryan Buds, because alphabetically my last name came first, and someone screwed that up. So I had no lines in the movie. I died in the first 10 minutes, and it was like starring Ryan Buds. So it was very bizarre, but kind of funny. And you know, these movies are made for low budgets because they're trying to make that money back on distribution. So if a movie costs $30,000 to make, they want to make anything above $30,000 by selling it to Russia and Asia and Canada, you know, with the opportunity to air that movie on demand or at Redbox and things like that. So if a movie costs 50 grand or 100 grand to make, if you make anything over that, it's like a successful,
That's a good
it was like,
movie.
it's like a gamble, you know, like cryptocurrency or something.
Yeah.
So that movie, I think, made more money than it cost. I think it only cost 40 grand to make. And it was good enough for whatever they wanted at that moment, you know.
I paid $5 for Velocipaster, so I get that.
That's a
They're
great
basically
movie, by
just
the way.
Hulk hands.
Velocipaster is
okay.
probably the most Sharknado-ish title since Sharknado, right?
Yeah.
When you hear
It's
it, you're like, what is that?
God.
What is it's a
10 out of 10.
it's a velociraptor, but a pastor? Like you
My-
have to
That
My
movie,
favorite is when he's
God.
transforming and they have obvious rubber gloves of the of the dinosaur on the guy's hands.
My favorite scene is
Oh,
the
yeah.
fucking land.
Yeah.
That landmine. That landmine was with the
When the
priest
car
was
blows up and it
amazing.
just says insert car explosion here. Like
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
my-
another movie that came out like Damn Beavers or something about beavers, rabid beavers. It was just zombie beavers. There was there's like 3 or 4 movies since. Oh, I was in another one called Snake Outta Compton, which is like Straight Outta Compton, but with a snake. And I play the news reporter in that movie. That's like if
Fascinating.
you can nail that title, the movie could literally be us 4 on Zoom right now, just joking around. But if you like make the poster and movie look like it should, it'll make enough money back, you know.
Next time we're all together, we're watching Zombievers. We're watching it.
Zombievers, that's it. That was what it was called.
We're watching
Zombievers.
Zombievers. It's on
It's-
Amazon Prime. We're
Yep,
watching
it's
it.
good. Mhm.
So the last question I got for you, so I saw you actually wrote a film called Life Support, and I spent 20 minutes researching this film and couldn't even find a plot synopsis.
Oh boy.
What is this movie that you wrote and starred in?
Yeah, it was actually like a sitcom pilot, and it was 2012. It was we filmed it literally the weekend. Like we filmed it like Wednesday and Thursday, and I got married on Saturday, 9, 10, 11. So
Was
it
that your fucking? Was that your goddamn like bachelor party? Like what the
pretty
fuck?
much? Yeah, it was. It's actually I'm actually I would say I'm very proud of that. It was directed by a guy named Michael Sanchez, who was part of Comedians You Should Know way back in the day in Chicago, like around the 2010 era. And he was a good filmmaker. He would make all these great short comedic films. And me and Dale Zawada, who I did that Between Gigs show with, and another guy named Chris Soa, we had this idea for a show where it was like just a bunch of people in a support group, but like it was a support group for support groups. So if you're an alcoholic or you are a rageaholic, etc., you would meet at this extra group, and there'd be like one of every, thing that you're obsessed with, or
I already love this idea.
And
This
it was just,
seems like this podcast.
Yeah, and it would just be like an extra meeting session for those people that didn't get enough out of their individual support groups. And it was called Life Support. And some really great Chicago comedians. Megan Gailey was in it. Mike Leibowitz, very funny dude. The list goes on, but it was great. And we filmed it all in like 2 days, and we put it out. We had like a screening at Comedy Sports downtown Chicago, and people laughed at all the parts we wanted them to laugh at. And it was just very cool. So that was my favorite thing I did right before we left Chicago to go to California. Nothing ever came of it, but it's out there somewhere. You can watch it somewhere. I still get updates every day that are like, one person liked the Life Support Facebook group or whatever we had made at that time. Those things still exist, but yeah, I'll have to find it and send it to you guys. But it was really funny, and it was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
I'm assuming it's
But
not with Queen
we
Latifah.
are-
I'm assuming,
we are-
assuming you
It's
didn't
not-
get that hook.
It's not Queen Latifah.
I'm assuming you
did
didn't get.
that
All right, all right.
research.
Queen
That's
Latifah's not
2007.
in this one. We tried
All
for
right.
Queen, and it didn't work out.
Didn't happen. All right.
We are lovers of very cheap produced movies. So
Here's my mission for you guys. This is what I was obsessed with in high school. A friend of mine and I used to watch these all the time. There was a movie called The Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard, who is Ron Howard's
I think
brother.
I've seen that.
I think I
I've
do
seen
know
it.
what that is.
It's about a killer ice
we
cream
like
man.
fast forwarded through like 30 minutes of that movie.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
There's
It's
a lot to
oh
love.
my-
I've watched that movie at least 20 times. It came out in like, I want to say 95, 96. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a
I've seen
really,
this.
it's a really bad movie. But if you can imagine, there is a movie that's worse called The Ice Cream Man. And that one is made literally with a camcorder in a backyard. And the big difference is Mr. Ice Cream Man has Clint Howard, who's Ron Howard, from Happy Days, his brother. And it's like you can tell it's a real movie. This other movie is called The Ice Cream Man. And a friend of mine named Steve Nelson, my best friend growing up, he bought it at a gas station, and it was filmed. It was like 1993. I can't even explain to you what this movie is like. If you can find The Ice Cream Man, I can't think of, the director's name is Mac Hale, Mackhale. It's hard to find, but if you can find it, watch both of these movies back to back and just talk about them for the rest of your life, because they're
I
great.
don't think I want this.
Love it. That's great.
All right, so that's our time with Ryan Buds. Ryan, would you like to plug yourself before we?
Yeah, if you have any virtual events coming up, you want to play some trivia, you want to play some bingo, some game shows, go to triviawithbuds.com, BUDDS, triviawithbuds.com. You can read all about me and all the stuff I'm up to these days, and I would love to entertain you, your friends, your family, your coworkers. It'll be a good time.
Thanks so much from all of us here at You Hate to See It. Make sure you follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. We are available on all social media that matters. And if you can't find us, that means that the social media you prefer sucks. You can also go to our Podbean, and in the upper right-hand corner, there is a button that says Become a Patron. And I'd really appreciate if you clicked on that. And it's like Patreon. There's a bunch of different tiers starting at $1 and going all the way up to $15 that you can subscribe to on a monthly basis. And it helps us out. It helps us make some extra money for new equipment and for some technology and things like that. So if you could do that, we would really appreciate it. So thanks for listening, everyone.
Hey, we're all doing that. Very cool.